Hey there, everybody. Mark Kemp with campgroundviews.com. And today my guest is Jim Turntine from RV Self Park. How you doing, Jim?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So last time we connected with you pre-COVID, you were working on a project and it's progressed pretty remarkably. You've come a long way. So why don't you give everybody a quick rundown on what the project is, what you've developed, and then we'll get into the details of what you're doing now and how people can get involved.
Okay, thank you for the kind words. We've come a long way and we haven't gotten started all at the same time. But what RV Self Park is a completely automated RV parking facility. It is not a campground. It's the opposite of a campground as far as what it does. We're not a long-term stay facility, although we have no problem with people staying as long as they'd like. But we're mainly built and designed to eliminate the labor. We don't have a store, we don't have a swimming pool, we don't have any of those amenities. What we do have is 100% pull-through sites, all paved, all lit 24 hours a day, security cameras circumnavigating the whole park with access to the security cameras given to every guest. We have, of course, full hookups, 50 amp service, 75-foot sites minimum, and sewer and water at every site. Our experience is we're trying to make it a stress-free experience for travelers, and that's comes from my own background of being an RVer and not wanting the hassle of and nothing against campgrounds, but the typical experience. And I always felt like the worst part of the day was just getting parked for the night. So we wanted to create what I call the Amazon type transaction for a traveling RVer. And so that's what we've done. It took a while to perfect that. I did it on some property here in West Sullivan, Missouri, which is about an hour southwest of St. Louis on I-44. It's not the ideal location for this business model. Where we think they need to be is basically all four corners of every mid-size and larger city, so that the folks have a place to stay for not only the travelers, but also people who have things going on in a population center. By eliminating the labor, we believe we can buy higher valued land near other amenities such as good restaurants and shopping and fuel stops and that sort of thing. And again, it's a different experience. It's a little bit like comparing a mini mart to a grocery store. If a campground were the grocery store, we would be, I think, the mini mart. We're 2 years in now. We spent a lot of time last year with consultants and lawyers preparing the franchise model, which has been a major undertaking and took a lot longer than I thought, but it's a lot more complicated than I ever imagined, having not done that before. But we're there now, and we're actively in the process of building more parks ourselves and offering franchising at the same time. So hopefully this year we'll have several new parks under construction. That's our objective right now.
And so both of those things are really key points to this. When we talked initially, I think you had just opened about a month or two earlier, and you didn't know. You and I have talked offline since then, but what did you learn from the experience? Number one, clearly it's working because you're building more, right? So let's start there. What have you learned in that 2 years process about this model that you threw out there?
Well, on the funny side, but not so funny, is how bad a lot of RVers drive, how badly how much they struggle to park. So literally, I had used my 42-foot RV with a full-size four-door truck on a dolly behind it, and I navigated, because I engineered the whole park and built it myself. But I navigated every single site with my big RV, and I thought probably about as big a vehicle as you could tell. And I saw so many people just do terrible things that I wound up widening every curve. I added 12 feet to the front row and 12 feet to the back row just to give them more room to swing out, to make it, again, and it's okay. It's kind of funny, but what I've learned is we needed to make it even bigger than I ever imagined so that it is as stress-free as possible, because there's so many people pulling in that this is their first trip. It's all, in some cases, the first night they've been here, and They just didn't know how to drive. So we had to make it, I don't want to use the wrong terminology, but just make it as stress-free and simple as possible. So the whole thing is paved and all the sites are painted. So it's like pulling into a parking spot at Walmart, only a lot bigger, obviously. So that was probably one of the things, biggest things I learned. But other than that, is that there was a lot of interest in the business model. I was shocked. I didn't expect, I was overwhelmed, have been overwhelmed at times over the last 2 years with the amount of interest, the amount of spies, for lack of a better phrase, people that have came to the park all hours of the day and night, taking pictures and video and thinking, they're going to go do it. It's hard to do. It wasn't easy to do. And we have been successful in achieving all our major patents, and we've got a lot of other patents that are pending. So we're pretty well protected. And one of the reasons I wanted to offer franchising as soon as we could was it's somewhat of a defense of that. We want to give people an option. I personally believe there could be 1,000 of these out here tonight, and it wouldn't be too many because I'm an RV traveler and I have been stuck countless times. And I know right now, especially, it's frustrating trying to find a place to stop for the night or even spend a few days near any of the major cities. It's really, really difficult. So, we've offered the franchising to try to help hedge against having to sue people for trying to copy or cheat or do whatever they might do. And ultimately, like I said, it wasn't easy on the technological side and the software. We've written it all. I've got software engineers that have written everything that we use. None of the existing campground management systems were set up. They didn't anticipate all the things that we want to do, which is basically have zero interaction. Unless the customer needs us, we have a call center. They can call, we can zoom in a camera, we can see everything and help them. But ultimately, most of our customers love it and they don't want really interaction. They just want to pick their site, pay for their site. They know exactly where they're going when they get here. They pull in, they park, they level up, they get out, walk the dog and spend their time here and then leave. And we never talk to them. And we've had thousands of folks come and go now like that. And all of our reviews are almost always 5 for 5. The only time we get any kind of negative is when people don't realize it's not a campground. Somehow they didn't, get when RV South Park from the name or anything else. They expected something that wasn't here, and I can't help that. I can't. There's no way you can make sure everybody understands what it is any more than what we do. But ultimately, it's all good, I think.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, and we talked about this initially when you came out with the idea. It's something that, and it's probably why you've got the spies. I love that. That's actually funny. And I'm sure you've seen him on camera walking around, and you're like, dude, that guy's in a suit. Like he's not camping here.
I have, yeah.
And the solution you've got is that it's automated. It's self-service. You don't have any staff on site, and you've also and obviously not going into too much detail on the patents, but you've got security systems in place to make sure that people aren't stealing from you and just pulling in and taking that. And that's probably related to some of the patents you've developed on this. Because I know when we talked about it, some of the owners commented underneath our video that, oh, I can do this. This stuff's turnkey. And it's like, as you've pointed out, it's taken you 2 years. Like this isn't easy, and this has been your focus. So high level, talk about, what, as a potential franchisee, some folks may be watching this, may be very interested in this. What are they buying into? What are they getting as part of that? What's it unlocking for them?
Well, ultimately, it'll be a network. That I think is what the traveler. I know that's how I am when I travel. I don't know where I'm going to be. I'm not one of those long-term planners. My life is busy and I have a lot of stuff going on. So when we can travel in our RV, we leave at the time of the day that we can, and we throw the dogs in, and we already have all of our stuff in there, but we don't know how far we're going to go tonight. And so, the idea was just to make it where it's kind of brainless. If you hit the site, as we add more parks, the map pops up and you can click the bubble that if you're in New Mexico, there's going to be bubbles in New Mexico, and you zoom in and where am I going to be? How far do I want to go tonight? Okay, there's one. And immediately when you click on it, it opens up to the reservation page and tells you we have 6 sites available, or the first thing it tells you is how many sites we have available. So right away, okay, you're not wasting your time to go ahead and try to book a site here at wherever, New Mexico it might be. And so as far as the brand that we're building, and so people will know what to expect, we have a lot of folks, and that you'll read it a lot. If you read our Google reviews or any of the other websites out there, people will say, we need these, we need them everywhere. And so we do. And ultimately, being a part of that network will be the biggest value, because I think the traveling RVers will automatically come to our website and our network and plan their trip across the country, or for that next wedding, or for that family reunion, or for whatever event that's going in the city that they're going to, where we have an RV self park. So all of that, plus the technology that we have, basically, we do it all. Every guest comes to that website. If they select the park that's owned by a franchisee in Dallas, then the transaction is going to happen right there. It's all going to happen. And the Dallas franchisee will get paid as soon as we're paid. So it's I want to say, kind of a passive income opportunity for franchisees. Once their park is built, they won't have to do a lot. Most everything will be done by the website itself, including refunds and things like that are all there. Extending stays, there's all options that are provided to the guest automatically on the email receipt that they get. Our call center staff can always assist them if they call and say, hey, I need to cancel, or I need to move to a different day, or I need to whatever. Well, we can tell them there's a link on your email receipt. Go right to that email and click on the link for whatever it is that you need. Extend your stay, change your arrival time, whatever it is, change the date, or ask for a refund. All of those things. So again, once a park is built, it'll sort of be on autopilot. The franchisee is going to want to make sure he's got good service providers and landscaping and minor repairs that might pop up. He's going to want to inspect his park routinely. How often that is, I really can't tell you today. It's something we're going to learn, but basically you can turn the cameras on from wherever you are and you can inspect the whole park remote control. So every franchisee will be able to do that from wherever they are. So again, it's going to be pretty much a passive kind of business for franchisees. And that's where the value is going to come from. The guests are going to come from the network as it gets larger. I don't know what the tipping point is. We've talked about that a million times on our side of the world here. Is it 50 parks? Is it 20 parks? When will we begin to see that, the guests?
Well, I mean, if you look at the KOA franchise, it was 250 parks. It was at that level. Although Jellystone has 70 in a tighter geographic area, so they've kind of got, I guess it depends on what your focus is, right? So if you had 50 within, like a 6-state radius, that might be your.
Well, and I think it's a different business model too, though, Mark. It's not. Yeah. It's not a camping destination. We're not trying to be the destination, so to speak. We're trying to kind of be the hotel near the city where you need to be actually passing through.
So as we were talking here, my Zoom bar is in the way. Let me drop that down. I was going through here. I'm on your Google reviews because you commented on it. So I pulled it up. And what's interesting is this one I highlighted right here. And these are user reviews, right? He says it's better than staying at a Cracker Barrel. And if you remember, like you're right down the street from a gas station, right? There's like a truck stop, and that was a question.
Yeah, we have a Cracker Barrel, and we have some great fuel stops within a mile. They're all right here.
And so as many owners know, Cracker Barrels allow people to camp for free. Some people camp in truck stops for free. So that was it to this location. This was a good test of the model because it wasn't a prime spot, as you've noticed. It was land you had, so you built it there, but it was in a perfect spot to compete. And then we've got a user review saying it's better than staying at a Cracker Barrel and cheaper. Cracker Barrel's free. He's saying it's cheaper. So then I was like, well, what's the prices? $40 a day. So this is for a lot of owners out there. There's grumblings about like Boondockers Welcome and all these other locations. Hey folks, here's a business model right here that's implemented and live right now with nobody on site that's charging money, and somebody's actually saying it's cheaper than a Cracker Barrel because they're not using their generator and they're not obligated to buy the breakfast. So I would encourage everybody to go through these reviews. There's another thing here I highlighted as you were talking there, Jim, where this person said this was super clean and well tended. That last part there, well tended. The number one thing that RV park owners will say about operating their park is I need to be on site to keep it clean. You're not on site and you've got a user review saying super clean and well tended. So you're doing something right here. I think you're on the right path. And so let's go into the franchise model a little bit and what you're building here.
Well, one of the other things I want to point out that's really unique is we
Go.
offer not just daily rates. We offer 14-hour stays, 18-hour stays, and daily stays. So, and that starts at whenever you say it starts. It could start at 11 p.m. on the first night and end 18 hours later, or it could end 14 hours later, or run to 11 p.m. 24 hours later. That is something that we've seen multi-stays in the same site using the 14-hour windows during the busier, peak travel time. So it's really interesting, but really I think it's the value that a lot of folks, it'll take a while for them to really kind of understand what that means, because as a traveler myself, most of the time I don't get to a park till 11, 12 o'clock at night anyway. And you're there late at night, finding your way. And then I get up and leave 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. So I only even stay 8 hours most of the time. But I'm paying, $70 a night or whatever in a lot of the parks right now. That's kind of what the average was on my last trip. So I think we're providing a great value, especially when you consider our entire park is paved. If it's raining, doesn't matter. You're not getting out in the mud. Your dog's not going to be a mud ball when he comes back in the RV. Things like that to a traveler means more than maybe somebody who stays long term in a campground somewhere. But I think, again, we're a different business model. We're not the campground. We have several unique things that we're doing that I think fit and provide a lot of value that over time people will begin to realize.
And so we're within your reservation system here right now. And as folks can see, it's a very upfront process. And I'll applaud you on that. The first thing, this just goes into general marketing for RV parks. The first thing a person's going to do is they're going to land on your homepage. They want to see some photos. They're going to want to see a video. Their number 2 question is rates. So you've got rates in your menu bar, which is the right route. And then from this rates page, you've got a clear path to make that reservation. So that's the appropriate way to market an RV park. And the thing here about this transparency on pricing, you've done it right here too, which is you've shown the daily cost and then given them, what that total cost would be up to that point. So very upfront pricing. This is the model to go to if you want to take anything from this. Make sure your pricing is very upfront. So let's go back over to the franchise model. And we can see here, there's some information on the website about franchise inquiries. You can go here and submit it. If I own an existing...
This is actually where it has to start. If someone's really interested in franchising, this is where it has to start. They come to this website, they click on that link, and they provide that information. And that everything we do in a franchise, as I found out, it's varies by state to state, but the laws are very strict. And we've got a staff of people in place, and everything here has to be done correctly and it has to be tracked. So a lot of the, again, I learned a lot about the franchise process, but this is where it starts. Mark, didn't mean to interrupt, but I want to.
No, it's actually an important detail. And I think I mentioned that to you early on when you suggested that franchising is a hard process to go through. It's actually a lot of risk on you as the franchisor. You really have to dot your I's and cross your T's very appropriately on this, because it's good to hear that you've gone through the process and the details to make this happen. So who of the folks watching this right now, who should go consider this right now? Who should be the one that's reaching out to you? Who's that best target for you?
Well, I will go geographically, because we've made a conscious decision that we want to start out to get this brand built and to get the network started. I'm looking all over the Southeast, anywhere south, anywhere I kind of say below the Mason-Dixon line. We've got a lot of people waiting for, let's say, Indiana and Michigan and states in the north and even Colorado and out that direction. But we want to get the first parks built in the traffic corridors in the South. That's really where we're focusing on, because we want to get the brand known. And we believe that year-round traveling traffic on I-75, 95, 65, 55, 35 through Dallas, you name it, I-10, I-20, if you're let's say a couple of 150 to 300 miles north of the longer term destinations, I think that's where we want to start, because that's where most of the travelers are going to be. And it's you're not going to make it to Orlando tonight, is what I tell people. So I'm looking right now at sites on I-95 between, exit 38 and all the way up to Florence, South Carolina. I don't remember what that exit is, but 38 in Georgia, all the way up to Florence, South Carolina. I'm actually going on a trip, leaving here the 20th, and we've got several sites over there. We've got offers already out on some property along I-75. And you got to remember too, Mark, these are 20 site parks. We're not building 150 sites. These are small footprint, low traffic. We're not trying to be of negative impact on a small city or a large city by having a tremendous amount of activity in a little parcel. So if we're successful, these parks will be, I use this phrase, it might not be right, but you'll understand what I mean. It'll be like Waffle House. We need to be at almost every exit. Almost anywhere there's hotels, we need to have one of these because there's people and things going on. We've had folks like traveling nurses. We've had a lot of what I call secondary or new usages happening in our test facility here. I might have told you this story before, but we had some folks who a parent was on hospice in town. Well, they brought their RV, they brought their kids, and they set up and they just lived here through that process, which, a lot of us have been through. I've been through that, and not being in the same home right on top of them, having the space, but being 2 minutes away. You don't have that unless you're in a hotel room. But if you're homeschooling your kids or you got dogs you don't want to put in a kennel for an unknown amount of time, a park like this offers new opportunities that we've never had before. And I think that's what we'll find after we get established. We'll create more new usages, and that'll become our main customer. There's so many RVs sitting in storage right now, and people are on business trips or any number of kind of trips, and they're in a hotel because they couldn't use their RV. They can't be 20 miles out, or they can't be 5 miles out of town, down by a river. They need to be close to town for whatever it is that they're there for. And by town, I mean, decent sized cities.
Well, I was looking at the TSA airport traffic stats. Been watching that one closely over the last 8 months, and where it's trended at is they have about 500,000 fewer travelers daily going through TSA checkpoints, and that's been steady. Even when Omicron, it bumped up a little bit, but it's been pretty steady at 500,000. And there's a few reasons for that. If you get into the side, which a big one is what you just noted, business travel. Business travel is collapsed. People are just, Zoom is taking over. You're able to do it. So people are not traveling for business. But when they do need to travel because they haven't been traveling by plane, the reality is, my opinion, and I'm speaking for myself here, flying is a total pain in the butt. I hate it. I hate the entire process of it. It's miserable. I would rather spend an extra 10 hours driving than actually going to an airport. And I have a strong suspicion that there are a lot of folks just like that right now who now have a Sprinter van, who have an RV of some type, and they prefer to do this. So that leads to a question here, Jim. And I think I'd asked you this before, but we'll bring it up here again. There's a lot of RV parks that have been built along the interstate that are in small towns that, generally are struggling. They're not a destination, so they're an overnight spot. You have to man it. This potentially opens up the opportunity for an investor to buy that property, turn it into an RV self park, automate it, and the thing potentially runs itself. Is that a potential franchisee that you'd be interested in?
It is, but there's some obstacles there, because if you buy an existing facility, and I'm looking at a few myself, we have to completely redo it. The way that we control the services, the water, the sewer, the electric, from our distribution points, it's not. I'm not saying it can't be done, but to retrofit an existing park is almost probably more costly than buying raw ground and starting from scratch and doing it all right from the beginning.
Wow.
It just depends. It depends on the dynamics of it. If it's cheap enough, I guess you could say, or if you only did a certain portion of the park, but that creates some other obstacles, because we want the brand to be consistent. We don't want it to be, just a part of a larger campground that might confuse the guests. So, we're tiptoeing through a lot of these little nuanced sort of decisions that we got to make. But anyway, short answer is maybe yes, but it depends on the cost of that park, because retrofitting and doing what we do the way we do it, it'd be somewhat expensive.
How has insurance been for the property? Have you had any issues getting it covered? Has there been any conversations on that end?
No, actually, it was remarkably, because we don't have a walking trail, we don't have swing sets, we don't have a swimming pool, or we don't have a shower house for somebody to slip and fall. We don't have any of that. So the liability risks are pretty low. The place is very well lit up. Some have even complained it's too bright, believe it or not. But we're actually putting, that's something we're doing an upgrade actually in the park right now. We're putting automatic dimmers and motion sensors on all the lights so that it'll actually answer that and deal with some of the light pollution that some communities might have. But at the same time, it'll enhance the security as well. Because when the lights are lit up, you'll know somebody's out there moving around. Now that may be the lady walking her dog 3 sites down, or it could be something that, is a little more concerning, but the lights are on, so somebody's moving around. And ultimately, I think that's going to be a really good feature and enhancement to what we're doing. So
very cool. So, we'll post this in both Facebook groups, which is the one that are for existing owners and operators, and the other one's for folks looking to get into the industry. So let's talk to the ones that are looking to get into the industry. They're buying or building for the first time. They like this. They reach out to you through the franchise agreement. Again, go back to your ideal ground up build. What does that look like? What should they be thinking about? Obviously in the southern states along a major corridor, but you mentioned the 4 corners around a big city, right? The 4 main arteries coming in and out of that city. What other requirements are you looking for in a potential franchisee?
Well, as far as the site's concerned, we're going to want a site of 3 acres, give or take. It could be slightly less, or it could be a little bit more depending on the water retention and access entries and the road grades and things that you have to deal with, because we want it to be stress-free from the minute they book the site till they come and they leave. I don't want them dragging hitches on their way in and out or things like that. We want to be close to amenities, meaning some decent restaurants, some food. If there's a Walmart just up the road, that's great. If there's a Quick Trip or a Buc-ee's nearby, that's fantastic. Just that, make sure you got to be in a city where there's police protection, because yes, we have cameras and we share access to the cameras. We stream the cameras for all of our guests. We give them a link to it on their email, and they love that, by the way. A lot of our guests have given very positive feedback about having access to those cameras. They can see their RV when they're on a day trip and left their camper sitting with their dog in it or whatever. Those are just kind of common sense things. You got to have sewer and water, public sewer and water, police protection. You don't want to be right next to a firehouse or an ambulance house, right? Because it's not going to be real conducive for RVers trying to get a little rest. But other than that, it's pretty wide open. We're not saying we won't be out in a more remote area. We will, if someone wants to, but I think it brings more risk. And I think anybody that wants to check boxes on a business deal, you want to check all the boxes you can to enhance your chances of being, very successful. And that's pretty much it. If a person has some skills or background in construction, they'll probably be much more comfortable. But I don't know that it's required, because they can hire a general contractor and they can hire their own business consultant and make all their decisions, with the information that's at hand.
What I want to say first off, Jim, is congratulations on actually pulling this through. I mean, I know it's been a long journey for you to get here, and you've moved mountains over the last 2 years. It's cool to see a concept like this come to life. A lot of people have talked about this, but nobody's done it until you've actually accomplished this here. So thank you for your time today. Is there any questions I didn't ask you that you want to make sure that people know?
Gosh, I'm sure I'll think of one after we get done. But I mean, generally speaking, I think we've covered all of the kind of major things. I don't think you missed anything.
Jim is a member of the main Facebook group, so if you want to ask him a question, just comment below, and either himself or somebody from his team will be happy to respond to you. It's a neat concept, good thing to be having here. I know folks complain about Cracker Barrels and Walmarts. It's one of the reasons why I'm a fan of Harvest Host, because it's applying a cost to camping, right? If you stay at a Harvest Host, you're expected to buy something. Same model here. It's getting people to pay the hourly rate thing. That's a very interesting. And I know some people, their ears perked up when you said you've booked the same site twice in a 24-hour period. That really caught people's interest when you said that.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've been giving a lot of thought to that. And this park here has given us a lot of data, this original park. And I tell everybody it's a test facility, because it's not really the optimum place where I envision these parks being, but this is where I was, and I could build it and do all of my testing here. And we threw away a lot of stuff, but on that hourly rate, I actually think that we could find, and that's the nice thing about the software that we've written. We could allow 4-hour windows. We could allow 6-hour windows. I think there'll be some instances in some locations where, maybe near a national monument or something where folks aren't really looking to rest, but they want to plug in. They don't want to leave the generator running. They want to, they want to be there long enough to do a load of laundry or whatever, So I do think as we go along, we'll probably experiment and find some locations where even smaller increments of time that people will be willing to pay a premium for. So that's just another part of the business model. And we've also built in, now that I'm thinking about it, we built in dynamic pricing too. And you didn't see that on that scale. I think it's written there somewhere on that.
It's written
page.
there, but it wasn't called out. Yeah.
So what happens, and that's all each franchise location or every location that I own, I can set it up in the software. I can decide, okay, when we get down to the last 20% or the last 10% or whatever it is, we can charge premium prices and tell the guest, we're sorry, but we're in high demand today and everything's almost sold out. And the last 5 sites we're going to charge a premium for, it's just what we're going to do, because we're expecting more people are going to want those 5 sites and they'll pay extra for it. Not unlike an airline ticket or many other business models where hotel rooms, where there's a premium when they get almost sold out. We can also set up multi-day stay requirements if we're near a racetrack or something that has an event that's going to bring way more people to the area than you could ever host, and you're going to charge a premium. I know years ago when I went to NASCAR races, I would rent hotel rooms and pay $1,000 for 3 nights, whether I wanted 3 nights or not, And from a business standpoint, those options are in our franchise model. So I'm not saying that I'm advocating for or against, but it's business, right? People are doing this to make money. So having those features and all being part of the automation is already built into the system.
Yeah, Jim's a good guy to meet. And if you're interested in the franchise, reach out to them. The website is rvselfpark.com, and then you'll see the link to the franchise. And you can obviously go through and do what I just did. Go read the Google reviews, do the research on it yourself. If you want to be a spy, by all means, rent a site, be a spy. Jim's happy to have you there. And you got something special here. I told you the first time I saw this, you're onto something here. You've got a real finger on the pulse on a need. So, congratulations on doing it. And anybody out there looking to reach out to you, rvselfpark.com, go through that franchise agreement, fill it out, and start that process. If you fill it out, you're not committing. You're saying, I'm interested, and start the conversation from there and get the details. And if it works, great. And we want to hear about it. Share it with us as you build this thing out. If not, that's great too. You're going to meet Jim, cool team over there, and doing some good work. So thank you for your time today, Jim.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Wish us luck. I hope that you're right about everything you said. Of course, we're banking on it, but I just, as an RVer, I hope that we're right, because I think it could change things. The freedom of the road is not out there right now. So if we can get some of these things built, it might change the way we can use our RVs again.
Yeah, we're signing off. That's the fundamental shift that you're creating. So when I mentioned my experience with air travel, stuff like this, and there's obviously roadside RV parks now, and I'm not taking anything away from you all that are roadside RV parks. This is just adding on to that experience, because you're giving RVers more options to stay. The number one complaint we have right now is there's not enough places for me to stay. So this is just adding to that inventory in a different style. I like the grocery store versus the mini mart analogy that you used earlier. If we have more choices available to campers, it gives them more options available to them. They're more likely to use the RVs that they have. It's a win-win. It really creates a good opportunity. So, I personally would use it. And I think I may have shared this with you when we first talked several years ago. In 12 years of full timing, we never stayed in a Walmart parking lot. We never stayed at a Cracker Barrel. We only boondocked once. That was our style. We wanted to stay in an RV park with hookups. And the second I saw this, I was like, I would stay there if I was driving through, because it checks all the marks that I would need to get from A to B. And so you're on the right path here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody. I hope you got value out of this. If you want to reach out to them again, comment below. Go visit rvselfpark.com. And if you want to learn more, if you have topics you want me to cover, ping me. We're happy to go find experts like Jim or anybody else and help you better operate your park. Until then, talk to you later.